And we're going to section off. We're going to make, we're going to make 5 circles. Not big. Don't have to be perfect circles. But we want them across the top of the paper, just like that. And when I get them, I'm not going to worry so much about pencil marks, really, because pencil marks are actually something in watercolor you're going to have to deal with. And I showed you guys the rubber eraser and the rolling, right? Okay. So, got some nice definite lines there. What we're going to do now is we are going to get a dark color. And obviously I'm using purple. So I've got purple here. And what I'm going to get, what I want to do right now is this first one is my tea. Okay? And when I say tea, I'm talking about the consistency of tea. You know how it's very, very thin. You can see through it really easily, right? The second consistency we're going to try to get is coffee. The next consistency we're trying to get is milk. And I'm talking about like a whole fat milk. You know how thick it can be, right? And the next consistency we're going to try to get is cream. And that has a whole heck of a lot more fat than the milk. And it's much more toward a solid. And then you take the cream and, of course, you make the butter, right? And butter does not spill. Butter sits there, right? So what I'm going to do is get a dark color, and you can use your sepia, you can use purple, you can use a dark blue. Don't use ultramarine. Try not to use granulated colors, right? We want to use dark colors that stain rather than.
Besides experience, is there a way to know which colors are granulated, which ones aren't?
Yes, they will. You look at the brand that you have, and it'll have a list, and it'll tell you the properties of it. I don't know if it'll say it exactly. Like ultramarine would not say it on the tube.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, look up the website. If you get Winsor Newton or Daniel Smith, they'll tell you.
So I saw on Amazon something granular you can add to your paint.
Yes, I have that, a granulation fluid. I have not used it, but I have it. So, yeah.
Sounds like me.
Yeah.
Need that someday.
Okay, so there's a lot of water here. Can you see that? When I tip it, it goes pretty fast. I can see the palette through it, right? My brush is pretty heavy with the water. So this is tea. And you'll be doing this too. So when you think you have it, you want to then fill it in so that we can. What?
Do you mind doing it from this angle? Would that be helpful?
No, it doesn't. Doesn't matter. So I don't necessarily want a puddle, right? So I'm just going to get rid of a little bit of excess water. But that is tea, okay? So coffee, of course, would be not necessarily darker because we're not really talking about value here. We are talking about the water to pigment ratio. So if I did this with yellow, my butter would still be a light value, right? Yellow cannot be a dark value. What's going to happen here, though, is that the ratio of pigment to water is going to coincide with value. But it's just know that that's not always the case. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to have a little bit more. I'm going to add that to my water, and you see it's already darker. It still moves. It still moves just as fast. But this is going to be my coffee. I'm going to put that in. And so both tea and coffee, if you have pencil lines, you're going to still see the pencil lines through the tea and coffee. Okay, so if you're doing something and you're thinking, okay, this is really light, it's sky, and I have these clouds in here, you're going to want to roll out those pencil lines, because otherwise you'll see the pencil lines, unless you want the pencil lines, right? All right, and then now I'm going to make milk. And milk has a higher thing of fat. Maybe the viscosity is not as fluid. So I added more. And now you can see how it's kind of going together. It's not separating anymore. It still moves, but it takes a while to move it.
It's like a jelly.
No, not a jelly, really. I mean, it's very fluid.
Like
You can,
thick?
it's still, I mean, look at that. I can still make drips and all that
So
kind
you're
of stuff.
adding more paint?
I added more pigment, more paint to the water that I had,
Oh, okay.
okay?
So you just okay.
And so now I put this on. It's still very fluid. I can still get puddles, but you can't really see the pencil line here, okay? So now we're going to get cream. And to get cream, I'm not adding any more water here. I'm adding more pigment yet, okay? So when you get cream, it shouldn't really move much at all, okay? It'll still move if I like really shake it or whatever. It's still fluid. You can still see it going to the edge, but the cream is wet, but the cream is mainly pigment with some water, as opposed to this was mainly water with some pigment. And so now I'm going to put the cream here, and you can even see kind of the edges. You see how the paint is so thick, it's not going to move all that much. But it's not so thick that I can't move it,
That's satisfying.
right? All right, now we're going to get butter. So I'm going to clean off my brush, and I am going to dry off my brush, because butter is almost like the paint out of the tube, okay? And so I've already gotten this purple wet a few times just through doing this. So you see my brush? There's, it's not in the, yeah. And now I'm putting it in there, and it's pretty concentrated stuff. So when I do this, it's almost like dry on dry, which is weird. But you can get texture, you can get lines, you can get it pretty thick and colorful, like if I wanted to concentrate it. But it's a little bit like sketching or drawing, okay? So those are the five levels. Of course, there are things in between, right? But these are the 5 things. From this end of the spectrum to this, you're going to understand a lot about watercolor, okay? So,
Good.
all right, thank you.